Before I begin, I want to make a big announcement. The full Igbo calendar is now available for your Apple and Google Calendar. I have created a calendar that tells the 13 moons, 4 market days, and different holidays and correlating rituals across the whole of Igbo land, as well as breakdowns of what they mean and the stories behind them. This is available for all patrons who join our community to support this channel at patreon.com/The Medicine Show. At the beginning of Ugachi came self-awareness. Ndimbu suddenly gained an unanticipated awareness of themselves as something separate from nature. They became aware of the fact that the trees were not the same as them, that the animals were not the same as them, and finally, that even among human beings, each individual was separate from the next. In this era, each person was given their own chi, with its own specific destiny and purpose on earth. They became aware of their nakedness and scrambled to cover themselves in the first wares, which were raffia. It is important to note that many of the masquerades, though not all, which wear raffia depict individuals from this time, or use the raffia to allude to the age and antiquity of the masquerade or spirit being depicted, as the first cloth human beings ever wore was foliage. As this realization dawned on them, the first tragedy happened. The individuals began to fall asleep and not wake up. This was the coming of death, a phenomenon previously unknown to Ndimbu. The first man to die, according to our ancestors, was known as Alili, and the trauma from the great tragedy till this day survives in the Igbo language as a deep, uncontrollable, or mournful cry is known as Akwa Alili. When death first came, our ancestors were perplexed by the new phenomena, a sleep that never ended, and loved ones who would be gone forever. Bodies turned to dust, and essences returned to an unreachable beyond. There was a great distress in the land, a panic, and for the first time, our ancestors felt something we are all familiar with today, the fear of dying. In their panic, they sought out a plan. With their connection to Chukwu fading in Ugachi, the first people made a decision that would change the fate of humanity forever. The first people gathered 2 creatures who they would give messages. These messages would then be given directly to Chukwu by the creature. If everything worked out right, Chukwu would hear the plea of the people and reverse his decision to bring death to the world. The people summoned the dog and the chameleon, and because Chukwu always hears what is first said, the people told the fast-running dog to tell Chukwu that when death takes an individual, they should awake. And because Chukwu does not heed the second thought, the people told the slow-moving chameleon that when death takes a person, they should remain asleep. For if Chukwu hears the first message spoken, and if the fast-moving dog and the slow-moving chameleon are set free to run to Chukwu at the same time, the first message to reach Chukwu will be that of the fast-moving dog. So, with the messages delivered, the dog and the chameleon were released, and as planned, the dog blazed ahead of the chameleon, leaving the chameleon in the dust of the fast-moving dog. The dog ran and ran and ran until neither people nor the chameleon could see it anymore. And the people rested assured that the fast-moving dog would get his message to Chukwu first and bring the dead among them back to life. But little did they know that the dog had grown hungry from all of the fast running and caught the scent of a woman cooking oil palm soup in her pot. The dog quickly diverted, entering the woman's home, began to lap up the oil soup that it was served. When the dog finished his meal, he got back on the trail, and as always, he ran and ran to Chukwu. And upon arriving, the dog delivered the message to Chukwu that people should awake once they die. But Chukwu looked at the dog and said that I had already spoken to the chameleon who reached me while you were eating palm oil soup. And the chameleon told me that when people die, they should not awaken. And because the chameleon was first, those who die will never awake from death. The fast-moving dog was crushed, knowing it had failed and doomed life on earth with its fatal mistake. The dog was devastated. But Chukwu looked at the dog mercifully and said, "You will not leave me with nothing to show for your great journey. So take this and give it back to those who sent you to me." And it was then that Chukwu gave the dog a torch of fire so that humanity can see in the dark. And then Chukwu spoke again. "I will not take death away from the world, but I'll allow the dead to return 7 times to experience and enjoy the wonder of the world and their families and the people they love again and again. So the dog took the torch and the new laws about death and brought them back to the living. If you're interested in knowing more about the 7 cycles of reincarnation, I have a video called Reincarnation Explained, and I will leave the link below. The coming of death also marks the coming of a new type of human. For those born after the arrival of death are our ancestors known as Ndiegede. For this reason, ancestors as a whole are referred to as Ndimbu na Ndiegede in prayer, speech, and ritual. Ndiegede are divine by their ability to function on an astral level, traveling, transforming, and communicating without terrestrial words. This astral communication and ability to tap into the astral realm is known as Ekili. Ekili is the ancestral method of accessing the astral realm for learning, communicating, seeing, and doing. And it was Ndiegede, in the time of Ugachi, who first mastered this technique to substitute for their lost connection to Chukwu, because the connection between Dimbu na Ndiegede and Chukwu was beginning to break as human beings lost their presence in Aku, the celestial nest. No longer moments away from Obi Chukwu, and no longer having the access they once had to the heart of the universe, human beings began to scramble to rebuild the connection that they once had. And this scramble would come to define the milestones of Ugachi. One of the most profound was the building of the first Arushi. And Arushi is a location, device, or shrine dedicated to channeling a particular spirit, because Ndimbu lacked the knowledge to survive on their own and maintain the universal peace that they once had in the previous era. They began to build Arushi as cosmic satellites in order to channel messages from the universe itself, in order to learn how to survive as a species and live in alignment with the universe as well as each other. This was the time of Nechukwu, of Uguele. Many of the stories that take place in Ugachi feature Ndimbu na Ndiegede trying to figure out how to survive, and most importantly, reestablish their connection with the universe. For example, there's the story of the Chokoloko. When Ndiegede found that one day their memory of God's name had left them, a panic ensued. Worried that the source of their answers to the questions of the universe was gone forever, Ndimbu na Ndiegede began a search for a creature who still remembered the divine name. It was then that they reached the Chokoloko, a tall, clean, gracile bird who stood by the river. And upon listening to the sound that the Chokoloko made, they heard the name of Chukwu. They listened closely, and they heard it again, Chukwu, Chukwu. Ndimbu realized that even after the memory of the name had left them, that this bird had kept the memory. And it was then that they decided, or they had become certain, that this bird could still reach Obi Chukwu unlike them. It was then that the first people devised a plan. They surrounded the Chokoloko as it said the celestial name, Chukwu, Chukwu, and in a single pounce, they captured the wise and seemingly all-knowing bird. Ndiegede then told the bird that since you remember God's name, we will sacrifice you so that you can send messages to Chukwu for us. The Chokoloko looked at the people and, being wise, thought of a trick that would change human culture forever. The Chokoloko told Ndimbu, "Don't kill me. Kill that my brother who goes to your home regularly. I stay by the river and do not enter your home. Kill the chicken. That is my sibling." So from that day forward, Ndiegede, listening to the plea of the Chokoloko, began to sacrifice the chicken, a sibling of the Chokoloko, in order to send messages to Obi Chukwu. And from sacrifice, Ndiegede were able to send messages to the realm they once came from. This marks the beginning of Itu Aja, the practice of sacrifice for first avoiding human death by replacing it with animal death, as well as using blood as a conduit for universal communication. For Ndiegede, Itu Aja unlocked a world of power and intervention. Itu Aja gave them the ability to intervene on a higher level in human affairs, to assure their fortune, and reward the forces by which good fortune comes. It was also Ndiegede who learned that it was not the blood itself that was the source of power for Aja, but rather the plasma or plasma barrier surrounding the blood, as this was liquefied life. The plasma barrier for blood serves as a manifestation of Mo, while the blood itself, which is surrounded by the aura of plasma, is a manifestation of Madu. And it is the plasma that Alam Mo, or the world of Mo, interacts with. For this reason, much of what can be used as a substitute for blood, such as egg yolk, also possesses the same aura-like membrane. Itwa Ajan allowed sacrifice to be another source of answers for Negede, as their grip on the internal workings of the universe faded. If you're interested in a full video on Aja or sacrifice, comment below. There's a lot of very interesting things to explore within the concept itself. Through experiments like this, the people of Ugachi established a new way of life and realized that while they were separate from Chukwu the creator and creation were one. And what they once received from the creator, they could also receive from creation, though in a new form and with new methods. In the story of Eri, which I have linked below, human beings were able to eat from the sky in the time of Eri, but upon Eri's passing, Chukwu instructed his son, Nri, to begin eating from the earth by sacrificing his first daughter, who in many versions of the story is known as Ada, and his first son, who in many versions of the story is known as Njoku. And from their graves, the first crop, which are Ede, or cocoa yam, and Ji, the yam, emerged, marking the beginnings of agriculture. While Ji is often translated as yam, it literally means to hold, as eating earthly food brings an individual closer to the earth. For this reason, many of our ancestral arts feature fasting as a method for reaching realms of existence, classed as sky realms, such as astral projection, or reaching the higher realms of self and universe known as Oganigwe. During Ugachi, the foundations of our spiritual and cosmological arts were born. For example, upon the death of the wisest woman who ever lived, Chukwu instructed the people to plant an Ugili seed in her head. And from this seed came Afa, or divination. Individuals were able to connect to nature through the realization that Agun, which is within them, is within all things. And on both ends, Agun serves as a means of universal communication and a web of connectivity between human beings and the universe. And most importantly, in this era, the Aba gave humanity the laws of universal order and the laws of communal order known as Iwala, which came directly from the earth, or Anna herself. Ugachi began with many stories of great confusion, panic, and disconnection, but through the will to reconnect came an era of human mastery and self-awareness, which gave birth to the esoteric arts that we use today. This mastery of self on a material and astral level paved the way for what we will witness in the third age, Ugangu.